Blades fans, subscribe to Blades Ramble. Up the Blades.
What is happening, Blades? And welcome back to the Blades Ramble. I am, of course, Jimmy, and we are proudly sponsored by Action Coach Sheffield and VMB Auto Centres. Thank you to them for their continued support of the channel. Thank you to everybody that signed up on Patreon as well. I'd be remiss to not thank those people that are supporting the channel. Absolutely unreal numbers at the minute. There's scores of people pouring into that group, and thank you for your support, and obviously I'll do what I can to make sure you feel like you're getting value for money in that group. But today, well, I've got three mates joining me who you'll all be familiar with now. In fact, let's get them in. Let's get them in. First up, Paul Man Mountain, Dave the Nose Leary, and Muscles Marsden, who was going to style it out like he was ready all along and not getting the dog some food.
Yeah, I've just got in from a big day, so apologies for my unprofessional tardiness. You're all not used to that. Where's that? There we go.
No, it's super pro here, so don't bring any of your unprofessionalism to it. First thing I have to say, before we get started, I know I've asked you slightly off camera, but I know the boys and everybody else will be keen to hear, mate. You were a little bit under the weather yesterday, weren't you, Stevie? How are you feeling, pal?
I've slept all day. On a Thursday, I don't work until 5 o'clock. So I've slept
just Thursdays. Just Thursdays you don't wait till 5. Is that what it is?
Well, on Tuesday, mate, I'm pretty sure I did a lot of work for you. So.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I did, mate.
Oh, yeah, you did. Yeah, you did. Yeah, I get it now. I get it.
Yeah.
From about 4:30 a.m. Ridiculously.
Yeah, so sometimes I get up very, very early. Sometimes I don't. Anyway, I've slept all day. I should be fine for York, but I didn't realise it was 12:30 kickoff.
Yeah, neither did I. Do you know that, boys, as well, by the way? It's 12:30 kickoff if you go into York on Saturday. Are you going, Dave? Because I know you think... Hello to David, by the way. I'll come round you all.
No, mate, I won't be there.
You won't be there? The negotiations not go well?
No, just a lot going on. So
Talks have broken down, and it's just not a deal that can happen at this stage.
So
maybe we'll revisit a friendly later in the coming days and see if we can get negotiations back on the table. Fair dues, mate. Mr. Man Mountain, how are you, my friend?
Very well, mate. Counting the days. Everyone at work's hanging on by their fingertips at school, so we're all mustering through, and can't wait for next week.
Love it, mate. Love it. And you're not York bound, are you? Either, I don't think.
I'm not, mate. I'm away with my Jumpers for Goalpost fantasy football friends this weekend. Yeah, a set of 20 blokes in a fantasy football league, auction style, bidding for players. It's heaven. It's great. We do it twice a year. Lots of my football friends. Yeah, it's brilliant.
Football friend.
Yeah, 2 nights. Right, okay. 2 nights away for the boys.
Nice, mate. Nice. See, I'd never get a pass for that, but that's a different battle that I have to talk about another time. Today we are here to talk about what is going on at Steve Marsden's house.
I was cleaning the camera a little bit.
Oh, right. Okay.
Have you?
Yes.
It was a little blurry.
Yeah, looking well now, mate. Got you in
Thanks,
decent.
We all wearing an advert tonight. Is that the idea? What have you got, Dave? Tell us about yours.
So mine is for the Huntington's Disease Association, which is a charity very close to my heart because it's what my mum suffers with. Yeah, I'll not take over the stream talking about what Huntington's is, but if everyone would kindly have a look, I'd appreciate it.
Absolutely, please do. And that blows out of the window the cheap plug I was going to do for Ramble, obviously. So I'll leave that. That can go in draw for now. But Dave representing. Anybody else got the badge on? No, they haven't. It clearly means more to Dave than it does the rest of you. But thank you, Dave. I appreciate the support. And absolutely, mate, really appreciate that you've even mentioned that cause, and thank you for raising awareness as well. So we are here today to talk about our beloved Blades, and obviously I've been doing some videos on potential targets that we can look at. But is there any point to them videos? Because it doesn't really look like the Blades are in the market for much, if anything. Look, obviously there's been some movement. We've seen an awful lot of players leaving, which we were expecting. A huge turnover. I think it was right that we moved a lot of the old guard on. They were certainly past the peak. You could argue players like John Egan, George Baldock, as great as they have been for us. Me wanting those players to stay, is that just trying to hold on to past glories a little bit? Maybe so. I can take that argument. But then what do you do when you've got a threadbare squad? You need to bring bodies in. And some of the consensus among the fan base is, well, we're undergoing a takeover potentially. And, you know, there's a list for targets pre-takeover. There's a list of targets post-takeover. The current regime have openly admitted they haven't got an awful lot of money to throw at it. The prospective new owners may have a little bit more, if not loads, but they'll have a little bit more at least. So we could target some players, and names like Harrison Burrows has been thrown out there. Kiefer Moore's been thrown out there. Michael Cooper's been mentioned just recently, the Plymouth keeper that I keep banging on about. So it's exciting to hear these names linked. Then you hear today that Kiefer Moore may well be going to Hull. Well, that's frustrating because he'd be ideal. I think he'd be a good signing for us personally, and I know a lot of Blades do. But is it? It's frustrating to see a target slip away if it's a genuine target, which we believe that it was. I'm going all around the houses a little bit just to give you a picture, because there's loads of other things we can tap into, and I expect we will do at some stage. Paul, I'll start off with you, mate. How do you feel about the current situation at Sheffield United? Do you understand why people are panicking? Where are you in your thought process of where we are at the minute?
Yeah, I mean, I do get it, and I think that when there's I think like today, almost with if the news about Kiefer Moore is the real thing, and we were interested apparently. I mean, we don't know, do we? But apparently we were interested. Because we're hanging on for this takeover, and we are going to have to hang on for the takeover, lads. That's just the crux of the matter. Is that It gets frustrating because you feel like if things had been moved on a little bit quicker, we may have been able to get him signed up or whatever. But the truth is, we're waiting for that. We're waiting for that to happen, aren't we? We're waiting for the takeover because the current regime ain't going to go and commit a load of funds to stuff because they're on the way out. So we think, and then the new ones, they're not actually legally allowed to put any money forward anyway. So we are a little bit hamstrung. I don't think the season will hang on whether we signed Kiefer Moore or not. Again, I thought he was a decent option, and personally, I'm waiting for the takeover, and I think that as a fan base, we've just got to sit. We have to wait and see, because, like I said it on a previous video as well, that people don't take over football clubs to run them into the ground. The owners want to get us into the Premier League. They want to establish us in the Premier League. Whether they think Kiefer Moore would have been part of that picture, I don't know. And it's frustrating to think that we're hamstrung by the fact that it hasn't gone through. But from what I hear, things are moving along well, and we're just waiting for the penny to drop. And when it does, I'm sure there'll be much more news, much more things to think about. It's just like you say, when we are so threadbare, it is that we're sat here going, come on, when's it going to happen? When's it going to happen? But actually, when it does happen, I'm telling you, this group of people are not interested in watching us rot in mid-table. They're not. They know that we've got to strike while the iron's hot. We've got to strike while the parachute payments are kicking in. And I'm relatively positive. I'm not in the panic button because we didn't get Kiefer Moore. And when it comes to the free agents that I saw you speak of, Jimmy, I think that the free ones that are going straight away, people, they've ran their contracts down on purpose. The really good ones, the ones that we could go and get, for example, who have ran their contracts down on purpose, hoping to get a big payday, which is why they do it at the end of the day. They want to get a big signing on fee. That's what they want. They're not going to jump at the first offer either. So they're like, if there's a load of clubs wanting to buy those players or offer them deals, for example, they're not just going to get one offer and go, oh, let's take it. the only ones we're going to be interested in, hopefully, are the ones that other people are interested in and interested in offering deals for, because that means that obviously they're wanted and they're useful. So I'm not too worried. I don't think there's a lot of those free agents going to be signing for things in the next week or two, and they're going to be sitting around waiting to see what transpires. If they know Sheffield United are interested and they know there's potentially a windfall of money coming into the club soon, and they, you know, I'm sure money's been spoken about in terms of ballpark offers, and you know, I'm sure we'll get the ones that want to come to us. If Kiefer Moore wants to sign for Hull City, mate, let him go. You know what I'm saying? I don't see, personally, I know I'm biased, but I don't see the comparison. And if that's his ambition, then go for it. That's fine.
I think it's rumoured to be a 3-year contract that Hull have offered him, which I can't see us offering that. And I think some may consider that smart because he's 31. Do you want to tie somebody down for 3 years up till they're 34? We know that players, once they go past the peak, they can really drop off. We've seen it with our own legends, if you like. Ollie Norwood hasn't been the same player the last couple of years. John Fleck went downhill. Ender Stevens, these players that have been brilliant for us have started to tip, and people will throw that argument back, like I was saying, at me, saying, well, who knows that John Egan's going to come back same player? Fair argument, because we've seen players not perform to the same level. We're holding on to the past, or I certainly have been with certain players because of what they've given us previously. Dave, what's your thoughts in response to that? I think generally, we're all on a very similar wavelength, but it's more about understanding the balance in the fan base, because there are some that will take what Paul said and understand, you know, nobody's daft here. They understand that there's a takeover pending. Some people think it's smoke and mirrors. I'm not of that belief personally. I don't think anybody here is of that belief, but I think some will always. It's easy to say wait and sit tight and see what happens. But the more players that we keep losing, more clubs that are linked to Harrison Burrows, more players that are, you know, taking these targets that we were after. Victor Johansson went very early in the window. We need a goalkeeper. What's your thoughts on people that, you know, they see players like Jamie Shackleton come in? He's no Ollie Norwood, let's be right. He's a younger player, maybe an Osborne type player, maybe. You know, Sam McCallum comes in, like for like a little bit with Max Lowe, probably, you would say, a bit younger, probably a touch cheaper. I understand the deals. They're sensible, if not underwhelming a little bit, with no disrespect to the players. Can you understand why people are getting a little bit itchy?
Yeah, of course I can. I think we said a few weeks ago that the Euro is obviously about to end with it coming home. And the market in general seems to be starting to move a bit now. So I think the next fortnight is probably quite telling in terms of the targets we're rumoured with. If they move on elsewhere, more I'm not bothered about. But I think if you know, Cooper or O'Hare, Worrell, these types of guys, if any, well, more than one of them start to move elsewhere, then I could understand why people would start to panic a bit more. So I think we're in a crucial time. The thing for me at the moment is what I really want to see from the club as a whole is learning from a lot of our downfall over the last few years. So making sure that we are signing players that are, you know, we're doing our due diligence from an injury perspective, that they're going to be available, that we're not signing ourselves up to contracts that we don't want to. Like if that's right, and Moore's going for a 3-year contract at his age, for me, that's not the kind of deal I want Sheffield United to be.
We won't want to match it, would we? Really,
no.
We won't want to match it.
So if we can learn from some of these mistakes, you know, I gather the last, and I know we're way off thinking even about going up next time, but we signed the likes of Brewster and McBurnie thinking if we went down, that we'll get offers for them. I just don't want. I want us to see us making sensible decisions all round in terms of how we're going to run the club going forward. But that being said, if we start to get perilously close to the Preston game and we've not brought in anyone who I think is going to, I mean, if we say Shackleton and McCallum, I don't think either of them are going to come in and have a massive impact on the team and make us better. And I think the closer we get to that, the more the understandable panic will set in. And I think I'll be one of them. But a couple of weeks away yet for me.
Okay. I like that, mate. I like that. I think there's a couple of things to think about there. You're right. Shackleton and McCallum, I don't think will make the difference, like as in like a tangible difference to the first team. They're not wow signings for me. They're very sensible squad signings that will be in and around the first team, and I think that's the purpose that they've been brought in for, as we prepare for what will ramp up hopefully in terms of transfer activity post takeover, if that's, or as we get closer to a takeover. There are positives to think about because we all anticipated that Anel would be leaving. There's rumours that Vinny Souza, there's been allegedly been a bid for Vinny Souza of around 15 million quid that we've knocked back. Allegedly, I haven't had that confirmed. I've just seen the reports online like all of us have, because it's been posted in our group. The other thing to think about is the type of player that we're recruiting. And I don't just mean in terms of ability. I mean age profile, because the squad was getting older. Today, for example, Sam McCallum has signed a 4-year deal and he's 24-year-old. And I think it's sensible business from the club because he won't be on a huge wage and he's only got really an upside from championship level at that. It's low risk, if you like. That's probably the best way to put it. And I know I revealed something in group today that will hopefully put people's minds at rest. But one of the factors I'm going to focus on is the fact that he wants to be here. And yeah, you can see it as, you know, it's a huge opportunity for him to play at a club like Sheffield United, but it's widely known that Sam McCallum had an offer on the table from Stoke City. And it's very uncertain, like Dave's touched on there, very uncertain what's happening with Sheffield United at the minute. We don't know whether we're going to come into a fair bit of money and then the standard of player may rise and Sam McCallum may find himself out of the squad. If we sign a Harrison Burrows, he's going to struggle to get in. But he wanted to come to Sheffield United and he wanted to wait. So the offer that he had on the table from Stoke, it had been easy to take that offer and challenge Ender Stevens for a spot in Stoke's squad and maybe be in and around the playoffs. But he wanted to come to a parachute team, bigger club, bigger profile. And this is no slight on Stoke. It's not our club's bigger than yours. It's more trying to demonstrate the mentality of the player that he believes in himself and he backs himself to be able to force his way into the squad and the team. Steve, does that play any part into your thinking about how we're going to be making the squad up going forward?
If you know, just on the Stoke thing, a few weeks ago we were in for Victor Johansson reportedly, and he chose Stoke over us. So I do wonder, and I've got no information, not been told anything, but like I do wonder if Wilder now. I mean, I'm not really clear on what's happening with Wilder, but if Wilder now has that long-term vision and that long-term plan, he's obviously selling it to these players. Compared to a few weeks ago, Sam McCallum's obviously keen to come. I think what the Shackleton and McCallum signings, the reason why I'm so positive is because there was a narrative running about 3 weeks ago saying that we couldn't sign anyone, the takeover was in the way. And that's just been completely debunked now, because we've signed these people. So we do have the ability to sign. What the mechanism is now, and I'm pretty sure at the end of last season or before the season ended, we were talking about how there was a deficit and we would need to sell players under the current regime before the takeover was going on. That hasn't changed. Until this takeover is done, that hasn't changed. But we looked at people like Vinny Souza and Anel specifically, that once they are sold, we will then get players in. Now, let's pretend the takeover does not happen. Okay. I am still relatively positive about the squad for a couple of reasons. Number one, Berger and Illiman leaving were a big surprise to most people, given that it was reported that Billy Sharp had given him his number 10 shirt and he'd already filmed the video to stay. It was a massive surprise. Within days, we brought in Hamer and Souza. We spent money. We had them lined up. We were ready to go. There has been so much going on at the club that the club are not leaking and not telling anyone about, that they surprise and bam, we've got it there. And I think it's pretty obvious the club are working behind the scenes and have multiple plans ready to pull the trigger. Now, the issue I see with the frustration, and I get it, I do understand why people are frustrated, but when you read between the lines a little bit, there's so much going on. And the club, number one, cannot talk about it. The EFL rules say you will get a fine and penalised if you talk about this publicly. So I know that people just want the club to say something. And I keep sharing that meme, and people in the group are getting a bit miffed off with me. And that's absolutely fine. But it doesn't change the fact that the club literally cannot say anything. Oh, yeah, but they could just say this. No, they can't. Do we want another transfer embargo? Do we want to put the club back on the foot, on the back foot, just because... I don't know, Derek. I hope there's no Dereks in the group. If there is,
there's not. Not yet.
Just because Derek sitting in his house scrolling Twitter and refreshing the group needs to know what's going on. No,
you need to leave Del Boy out of this, Steve.
Has he got a window cleaning round?
Huh? Del Boy's just started Tingo Cola, mate. So I think we're clear of him.
Hey, you leave my mate out of this.
Yeah.
So. I agree, and I think that's the nature of the world we live in now, the social media world, where everybody feels they're entitled to know. And DC, to be fair to him, keeps saying it in group, nobody's entitled to know these things. You know, it should be, as you said, Steve, it should be kept in house with the club. It's just we're clamoring for information as nervous fans that know we're undergoing some serious sort of talks about the future of our club.
And the journalists, right? And the journalists are being really clever here. I know that people like say less than complimentary things about Alan Nixon and Danny Hall. But guess who's clicking on all their ads and messaging them on Twitter and asking questions and getting that clickbait? So if I was them, I'd be like, yeah, do you know what? I've seen Ronaldo walking around Bramall Lane after this take. Do you know what I mean? They are using this unknown and this frustration to generate whatever their interest is, and that's fine. I'm just going to finish on what I think is positive, because let's say we sold no one. I actually think the squad's not in too bad a place, given that we've got 5 to 6 decent loans. Yeah. We need a goalkeeper. We need a striker. The midfield is actually looking pretty tip top.
Yeah, it is.
Defenders, and especially if you change the formation when we've got Souza, Hamer, all of the lovely people we've got. And then defensive wise, what have we got? Bogle, Anel, Robinson, and then
Reece
on the left. Yeah, Reece Norrington Davies if he extends, or McCallum. So I think we've actually got a decent squad on day one. If we get 5 to 6 loans, amazing. So I don't think it's as bad as people think, but I do understand the frustration. The thing is, the club can't do anything about it. I just want them to get it done.
Yeah, agreed. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to jump into some comments, and the beauty of this is a lot of these comments have come in before we started talking, so this will give us a genuine feel as to what the fan base is thinking, just based on the thumbnail title and the topic that we're talking about is are Blades right to panic? FX starts us off with chuffing hell, what a rogues gallery that is. Thanks, pal. Thanks, pal. Face for radio and all that.
Can you ban people from the channel?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, he's gone. That's his first and last comment of the night. Signed 2 squad players has been so far when we need 15 players. Looking back, the Archer deal was horrendous. Basically paid 45 million for a loan when we had no chance of staying up. Longest takeover in history. He carries on. Our rumoured targets, Kiefer Moore, Burrows, Brown have either gone elsewhere or linked elsewhere. Not heard from Wilder yet. Still no decision on McBurnie. Don't know how we can be down in January and still looks like we're playing catch up. Just can't see us signing the multiple players a week we need when on average it takes us 2 years to sign a player. Until we sign a starting 11 player, I'll be worried. The last 2 years have been ran awfully. Got to learn to stop letting players' contracts run down so we lose 10 plus players for nothing. When a player gets to a year left, sign up or sell. Okay. A lot there. Paul,
Right.
on you were first.
I want Dave, because Dave chatted some sense earlier, to talk about the Archer deal. I then want to talk about the Stoke losing players thing, because I think that's something that needs to be a bit debunked as well.
Yeah.
Okay,
and also the last point as well. We sold our two players to make money for the club because they had a year left, and that was good. But that was good business in my opinion.
It was good. It was good business, but oh boy, did it divide opinion and cause an absolute split in the fan base. The Illiman one was the one that hurt the most. But obviously, Sandy going to a relegation rival, didn't help. And on that basis, do you sell Jayden Bogle then? Do you sell him for a cut down price because he's got a year left and he hasn't yet signed a new deal? And then that leaves us with Sam Curtis and Femi Tariki, Sai Sachdev. I potentially would. It's a question. It's not how ridiculous. I think that should be something that the club thinks about in terms of the 1 year left on your deal strategy. I agree with it. Sorry, and I've jumped in there. We said we were going to let Dave answer first, and then we've all talked in front of him. Go for it, Davey boy. Are you going to talk some sense about it?
I was trying to remember what I said about Archer now.
You spoke about the deal, and there was a low fee rumoured.
That we'd apparently sold him for 7 million, and I said that the critical bit's the delta between what we paid and what we sold. So it's kind of irrelevant they didn't buy him back, did they? We don't pay installments or
cancelled the transaction, essentially.
Something like that. So we'd no idea what the numbers are. So for it to sort of say whether it was a bad deal, it was a better. If you think about it this way, if we'd have bought him outright and got relegated like we have done, I don't think we'd have a massive queue of clubs knocking at our door saying we want to buy Cameron Archer off you. So all right,
for 18 million quid.
Well, yeah. So all right, we'd have a good. We'd have a player who I think we all think with the right service would tear it up in the Championship. But we could have said that about Brewster or McBurnie after what they'd done before we signed them. So it might not have worked. And then you're left with a gap you've got to fill elsewhere, which probably would mean us being forced to take a deal on someone like Ollie Arblaster that we wouldn't want to take. So it probably, given what we had, it probably was a reasonably smart punt from the club to sign Archer. It didn't.
Absolutely,
it didn't work out.
Who else would you have got for 4 or 5 million? And when you needed a striker, you've got what? Benny Traore, Brewster, McBurnie. We needed something.
The hardest position to fill, even when you've got tens upon tens of millions of pounds to chuck at it. So when you've not got that,
it wasn't. There's no way it was a penny over 4 million quid, and that includes all his wages and all his bonuses and everything. As a package, it'll be 4 million quid, because I know it were essentially like a £2 million loan fee the way it worked out, but all the other expenses with his wages, etc., it may have cost around 4 mil. But for a Premier League striker, he wasn't proven at Premier League level. Certainly a Championship level proven striker who would have kept if we'd have stayed up. I think it were a no-brainer. No-brainer.
So, I know we don't know the numbers.
The way it's worded that bothered me. Sorry. It was the way that the article was worded that bothered me.
Yeah. If it was 18, then we were never going to get 14 million for him after the season he had.
Well, remember there was the clause in there saying that if we stayed up, we could buy him for that money.
Yeah, we just carried on paying for him, didn't we?
Buy him if we stayed up.
No, we bought him. He's our player. I don't have to explain this to you, do I, Steve? I thought we were done with this explanation.
I had a really long day, mate. I think.
I'm only kidding, mate. I'm only kidding.
My brain's not working. Just on that comment, though, I don't see how this Archer deal is being used as, the club's in absolute shambles. No. Like, I just think it's revisionist.
Smart deal.
it's revisionist history because people are feeling frustrated, and I don't think it's a very good argument to say the club is in the shambles. It's absolutely no. It was a great deal at the time.
No. But what my problem was with, I got that from a mate of mine who's not a Sheffield United fan and doesn't know the details of this move at all, and he knows that we paid about 18 million for him, and then it just says Villa have re-signed him for 7 million, which makes it look like, from a layman's point of view, people who don't know the deal,
Villa we've dropped 11 million quid.
Villa fans are like, oh, we've absolutely had it across them there. That's brilliant. But the truth is, we've paid a couple of mil, and it's about the payment and how it all unfolded. The way that it's worded, someone just looking in at that article who doesn't know anything about this deal, that means we've dropped 11 mil. And some people in our fan base might look at that and go, what? We paid 18, we sold him for 7. What sort of deal's that? And I just wanted Dave to sort of debunk it for people about what the actual detail was, because that deal is dreadful. Whereas what you were saying, the deal we've actually done gave us what we thought was going to be a better chance of surviving. So it's not anything like that. And I just, when I read it, and because like I say, my mate, he sent it straight to me. He doesn't know about the deal and thinks you've dropped an absolute load of cash on that, and that's ridiculous. And it's like, you just wanted it cleared up. That's all.
I think sorry, Paul. I think one of the clever things about that deal as well is we could see that Aston Villa were struggling with their FFP. What's it called now?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, profit and sustainability. Yeah, you're right.
They were struggling with that, and then we used that to our advantage to get an asset.
We leveraged it.
That's right. And we leveraged another club's bad fortune. Like, everything about that deal was pretty forward thinking. And I remember at the time, people were frustrated because it wasn't signed off yet. But the lawyers were all talking about the mechanisms of how it
absolutely
would work,
right,
because we were taking advantage of Aston Villa's misery. That, like, such a good, clever deal. And had he scored 10 to 15 goals, no one would be
that's right,
criticizing the business of the deal.
Agreed. And it were the most beneficial for Cameron Archer, because he's 100%. Guaranteed to be a Premier League player any which way around it goes. So yeah, I think it benefited all parties involved, to be honest. So I think, Paul, you were going to say, mate, about Stoke, I think.
Yeah, I was just going to say about the deals that were done. Again, I don't know about you, but the reason that I like, if the ambitions of the new chairman and the new consortium are meant to be to get us up this season, what you don't want is a load of players who are never going to make the transition. So we've kept some. We think Blaster could, we think Hamer could, we think a few could. Now, on the surface, Johansson, okay, I don't believe that he would have, I think we said it at the time, Wilder would have said to him, right, you're my number one choice. We want to pay you this. You're going to be our number one. When we get promoted, you're going to be the man, etc. It's all about how they frame that deal. And I think we spoke about that before, Jim, about what are they going to be to us? And frankly, Kiefer Moore and Brown, decent championship players, no doubt about it. Have any of them made the bridge to the Premier League in their careers? No. Nobody in the Premier League has thought, wow, let's go and get Brownie out of Preston. And he's been there for a long time. And lots of clubs could have easily gone and made him an offer too good to be true. The truth is, he's obviously not fancied by anybody else to make that step. Okay, so if we're looking to go up and we've got the ambition to go up, I'm not saying he would have been a bad buy for free. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is, do we think he's going to go to the Premier League and hang tough in the toughest league in the world when he's had probably a 7-year window to impress enough people to get that move, and he hasn't got it? Kiefer Moore's never been to the Premier League and scored goals and established himself in a team either. And yeah, I'm not saying they're bad championship players, but we want guys who can make the step, who look like they're going to be able to step into that league. Because the last thing we want to do is a Forest. You don't want to get promoted and have to buy a new 15 players. You want to add 3 or 4 additions to what is already a good team, and then hope you can go and compete. That's what you want. And for me, young players like the 2 lads we're speaking about, McCallum and
Shackleton.
They're 24 years old. They're not their best yet. They're not anywhere near where they could get to. And I think that's the club saying, oh yeah, maybe you're not going to come in and be the first name on the team sheet. We're talking them down. We haven't even seen them really. We haven't seen how they go. We've had loads of players turn up out of nowhere. Didsy McGoldrick, for example, come in and establish themselves and end up being one of our best players. they've got a long way to go, and they're young, athletic lads who could potentially have the ability to make that step. We don't know that. And they've obviously seen enough in him to offer him a deal and for him to come to us. So I don't see these deals as bad things. And I don't see losing of Brown and Moore as a massive, massive problem. I don't believe we would have offered Johansson what he was looking for, and therefore he makes the decision to go to Stoke. Again, none of these things are like keeping me up at night.
I push back slightly. I push back a touch. I agree for the bulk of it, to be honest, mate. But I'm playing devil's advocate a little bit. Johansson, I think we had a limit on what we were willing to pay him because we valued him at a certain level. Obviously, his transfer fee was low, which everybody knew about, which made him very accessible to a lot of clubs. So we're always going to be the player that benefited in terms of the highest bidder likely got him. And Stoke were willing to pay him a rumoured 35 grand a week for somebody like you say that's never played in Premier League consistently. And I think it's a punt by them. Then it becomes a risk of a very good Championship keeper, but finished bottom of the league last season. So he didn't keep loads out. So yeah, I think he'll go well in Championship. I do rate Victor Johansson. I wanted us to sign him, but the fact that we've walked away because we didn't think he met the value that he was asking for is one thing. But the thing I was going to push back on you on was, I agree that we want players that will make the transition. And this has been a hot topic in the chat, to be honest. We need to be looking to sign players like a Harrison Burrows, who we're going to test him at Championship level. If he comes to us, we'll test him at Championship level. And hopefully he's got the potential as a young kid who's now a captain of his club at like 22, 23. Hopefully he's got the potential longer term to make it and hang at Premier League level. Them sort of players that can make the transition. Michael Cooper maybe might be in that ilk. I also think you need, and I don't mean these players nowadays, but we've talked about it again in group, Gary Medines, Scott Hogan's, Martin Craney's, and I think a little bit, obviously those are experienced heads that Wilder brought in that saw us over the line. James Henson did it in League One for us as well. So that I think you need these players that you don't envisage being with you 2, 3, 4, 5 seasons, but do have that extra bit of nous, bit of know-how, bit of skill. And we've got a very young squad now, which is great. And I see Shackleton, probably more so than McCallum, but I see Shackleton particularly as a bit of a utility man in that Craney role that can probably do a job for us in a couple of positions. But I do think we need a bit of experience. And I personally think Kiefer Moore would have been an ideal signing for us to bring on somebody like a Will Asula who plays in they're a similar size, and can he learn from Kiefer Moore as to how to hold the ball up a little bit better and, be a little bit stronger in the air, that sort of thing. I don't think would have been a bad thing for us because he knows how to get out of the division. Don't mean he's going to go on and do great things for us in Premier League, but I wouldn't, again, by the same token, I'm playing devils because I wouldn't give him a 3-year contract either.
And you can't blame him you can't blame him almost for taking that.
You can't at all, mate.
Well, look at all the news that's coming out about us. If your Villa mates thinks we've just spunked 11 million or whatever, and all there is panic in the fan base. I watched that Benjamin Bloom video last night about us.
Benjamin Bloom, supposed to be a friend of the channel, and I haven't watched it yet. Sheffield United in Crisis, is that the title?
It is, but it's very similar to your title tonight. It's YouTube title, but I see why people are knocking us. But if I don't know, if I was I don't know, whoever's negotiated the transfers, Chris Wilder, and everybody thinks we're skint, but we've got this big project that's coming, and I think that we now have a solid reputation of developing young players. If you look at Morgan Gibbs-White, James McAtee, Tommy Doyle, Aaron Ramsdale, Dean Henderson, all of these players. Yeah, exactly. We've now got this reputation. I don't think it's a bad thing for negotiation to be going into a market and saying, do you know, we're a bit skint at the minute, but would you take this? It's a good, rather than everyone thinking we've got loads of money.
Can I just add something in really before the point just goes off in a tangent that's gone in the group 10 minutes ago, and talking about what gets reported in the press. And
I've seen it.
Right,
your friend of mine, Alan
United, won a stunning 30 million plus fee for Brazilian midfielder Vini Souza, a target for Fulham.
If there's any Fulham scouts watching this, Leave him alone. He's an
Double it.
amazing player.
Double
You're not having him for 30 million. It's at least
No, we're not selling him at such a low price. No
Double it.
way.
Yeah.
Double
So
this is it. That's his job. It's his job to get clicks. And simultaneously, there's this weird thing happening in the fan base where simultaneously we're ridiculing Alan Nixon and Danny Hall, but then some scrap of information comes out, like Danny Hall saying, "Oh, Takeover will be announced this week," and everybody takes it as absolute gospel that it is going to happen. And that's what's leading to this panic. There's this vacuum of information. Just to go back on that commenter and Bogle selling, I don't think selling Bogle in the last year of his contract will have the same effect as Illiman and Berger, because we funded so much from those sales. Like, Bogle just hasn't got the market value for me. What I do like about the transfers that we've done, and just piggybacking off Paul's points there, and yours to be fair, Jimmy, is we have consistently now made profits on a lot of the transfers we've done in the last 5 years. We're signing younger players and then we're selling them on for either the same or more money. And that's not happened for a while. And to me, having Sam McCallum, who, let's face it, could have gone somewhere else, and he's got a contract where, I don't know, do you know what I mean? He's obviously coming to us for a reason. I think there's a vision there. Why would Sam Callum reject a contract at another club, come to us if there's no vision for the future? And I think it's about this developing players. So Kiefer Moore, to me, is a signing where, yeah, maybe he does a job, but don't want him on a 3-year contract where we can't get any sell-on value. Sam McCallum and Jamie Shackleton, we either get no money back, break even, or we get a really good player, we sell them on, or they do a good job for us. And
yeah,
I think that where a lot of the fan base, just come back to the title, are panicking, is they're seeing this apparent inertia from the club, even though we've had 2 announcements today. It's not inertia. They are doing stuff. We've had these 2 signings today, and then you're seeing all these transfer targets that apparently we're dead interested in go away to other clubs. It's confirming the fact that we're in crisis. Nothing is happening because other clubs are actually doing something. It's like, well, they're taking action. We're not. Panic, panic, panic. The world's going to end.
Okay. Okay, well, I'm going to try and plow through some comments. We are 42 minutes in, and I think I've read about 4. So thank you to everybody that's joining us. We've got 322-ish people in. So if you can all like and subscribe, that'd be very much appreciated. Right, so Pixie starts us off as well. Well, I say starts us off. We're back on the wheel that way. But how do, Jimmy lad? Of course, we don't have to panic. Signings will happen more often now. The Euros are nearly done. Good point. Players coming back from holiday. You watch the signings fly in, up the blades, up the ramble, like and subscribe. Love that, pal. Not panicking, says Stu. Things are on the move. Come on, you red and white wizards. Love that. Joe says, not yet worried purely due to the links and rumours of players we're talking to. Feel like we're waiting for a statement signing to settle the nerves. O'Hare, maybe. But when do we start to worry? I'm not yet at that worrying stage. I'm similar to what lads have spoken about, Joe. I don't think we're quite ready to panic just yet. We're being linked with players like Callum O'Hare is a really big statement, I think. And I think if he was to come in,
there, Jimmy, you were worrying on one of your videos last week where these boys took you off a ledge. So what? I'm not stirring it, Dave. How dare you? I would never ever do that to anyone ever. Jimmy, what has changed?
I'm not scared of you, big man.
What's you will be? What's changed from your mindset then to your mindset now?
I'm generally a very positive person, mate. I try to be when it comes to the Blades, and they are, trust me, as we all know, they are challenging. It were a big blow to me, particularly firstly losing Baldock. I thought that were a mistake. I understand the arguments for and against keeping him. John Egan were a big blow. I thought John Egan were going to stay. And then I look at our defence, and I was assuming at the time, and I'm still assuming that it's likely, but it gets less and less likely as the days tick by that Anel goes. And I think we're then very threadbare at the back. So John Egan going hit me like, because I expected him to stay. I suppose I was quite blasé about him signing a contract. I knew that we held an option, so I felt very comfortable in the fact that we held the cards. And if negotiations didn't go right, we'll just extend him because we'll choose to.
Yeah.
For different reasons, we've chosen not to. And I was questioning at that point, is it the takeover? Is it? I will get into this stage that we're talking about now, but as time goes on and I speak to people, either people close to the club or you hear certain things from credible sources and people that you know close, you become a little bit more settled. And that's hopefully the message that we can project a little bit tonight, is that there's a lot of work going on. I've spoken to some people about some of the transfer deals that we've done and are doing, and I think it's smart. It shows that, like Clarkey said today, it shows that we're improving and we're learning from past mistakes, and it's positive to know. It might not a lot of people will get to see the full sort of perspective of what's truly going on, but we're fortunate that we do get a little bit of insight. And when you understand a little bit more about the mechanics of it, it certainly calms your nerves and it reassures you that there's a lot going on behind the scenes. So I think that's what's changed, mate, to be fair. And I don't shy away from the fact that I flip-flop, because next week we might come back and we've signed nobody and I'll be saying, what the hell is going on now? We need to get moving. So it's just life of being a fan, in it. That's where we roll. So Scott says, Jimbo, I thought the club took a loan to help keep the lights on, make some moves so we could get going. The new owner just takes that loan. Was that right? Mid-July now? I think we should have done more. If you mean the recent loan that we're taking out, I think that's regular business. That's how we sort of manage our parachute payments. We'll take a loan out before the payment lands so we can utilise money for different bits. It's nothing to overly be concerned about, Scott. I'm not fully hitting the panic button just yet, but a bit more twitchy now. Agree with Joe. Joe further up. A statement signing like O'Hare immediately settles the fan base. X is a rough place at the minute, up the Blades, up the Ramble. It always is.
Are any of you on X? Do you read it?
Yeah, I'm on regular. It's a great vehicle for the Ramble, to be fair, because we've got a lot of followers on there. So whenever I'm going live, I talk. And it's a great place for news as well, if I'm honest. Whether you have to know which ones to trust or have an idea of which ones to trust. It is a very toxic place and it's quite negative. I found it a lot better since I blocked the minority that are just very negative. But
yeah, it's hard. And I don't use it because I know that I would be dragged into that sort of cycle of negativity. So what I do is I subscribe to the Rambles WhatsApp groups and on the Patreon. And then all that good news can get to that group for everybody. So if you don't like X and you do want the up-to-date news and some actual stuff, then join the Patreon. Because Jimmy doesn't sell it, but I will. It's class.
Thank you, mate. Thank you. Wow. I know. And Andy says Fulham have talked about the 15 million, and is it a joke? It's not been confirmed yet. It's an Alan Nixon report, from what I understand. He was saying we want 30 million for him. Dave's just read out. So Prince used the vampire loans, which he's used before, to get the funds that they need to use in the Windows assignment rather than scattergun payments across a period of time. Thank you, Simon. That's bang on. Illy says, hi, Jimmy. I hope we don't let Hamer go. It will be a right embarrassment and need to speed up on these signings. The away kit is horrible. Quick round robin. What do we think to the away kit, Paul?
I don't think I'm buying it.
I'm not a fan, mate. Davey boy, you don't mind it, do you, Dave?
Hey?
Not for you, or is it not for you? I thought you said it were all right.
I said it was the worst kit since that gold one.
You did. Yeah, you did. Did you say it was goalkeeper kit you didn't mind?
Goalkeeper, apart from the badge, I just think the badge looks like an afterthought.
Yeah.
But yeah, the kit's okay. As a keeper kit, it's all right.
Stevie, what do you think to away kit?
I need to see it in person, I think.
Okay, so we're nearly 0-4, to be honest. And Steve's a very positive person. That's as negative as you're going to get out of it.
But yeah.
It's not a case of letting him go, says Sykes. If they meet the release clause, stuff we can't do anything about, unfortunately. This is about Hamer, obviously. A little bit of murmurings about Roma being interested. I'm not convinced it's a genuine link, to be honest. We're going to Division 1, says Chirac. I think it's okay to panic. Shut up, Chirac. Man, the voice of reason will steady all of our nerves. Oh, he's a Mountain Knight. Stu's a Mountain Knight. I know, mate. We need that shirt. Joe says I know. We'll get it on next time. Even though I'm not overly worried. Yes. Well, shame we can't. In fact, can we just a second?
There you go, boys and girls. That's what we need to do, especially for this evening. It's an important message, guys. Important message. Needs to be heeded.
Love that. Keep the faith. Absolutely right. Hilly says, give Hamer a better contract and do what we can to keep him, because new targets, Hamer can go. They won't come to us if we're selling all of our best players. I know
Jimmy,
what you mean.
Back on that last comment, the one you had before.
Oh, yeah, I've missed this. Sorry. Even though I'm not overly worried, the longer this takeover doesn't happen, the more chance we miss out on players. Already seen it with Kiefer Moore and Hull. The likes of Burrow's been delayed.
Right. The takeover has not done anything about Kiefer Moore. That's not linked. Kiefer Moore just wants a 3-year contract with Hull, and we probably haven't offered him a 3-year contract. Nothing to do with the takeover. And this is where it's actually our standards and what we want that's dictated Kiefer Moore going to Hull. Not
speak to your Hansen. You speak to your Hansen into it.
So it's this. I just want to debunk this. The takeover is not having us miss out on these targets that we could get for free. It's just not true. Well,
yeah. I mean, Moore and Victor aren't free, are they? But I know what you're saying. I think Joe's argument would be we can't necessarily do a transfer transaction at the minute. Harrison Burrows would be the example that we'd struggle to pay £3 million for a left wing back when we've just brought a left wing back in. How can you justify it if you've not got excess funds? So
exactly. And that was always that was always before, and the takeover just allows us potentially to get people. It's a bonus. It's not.
That's right.
Back. It was always this way.
You're right. So we can do business, but there are post takeover targets that are in a different category that Harrison Burrows is a part of. Yeah, absolutely right. Hard to look at as a bonus when his name's so heavily linked, but you're right. That's the mindset we need to try and be in.
Yeah.
Hyder says Mr. Bettis or the poorest prince needs to publicly address this horrendous situation. Even the most patient fans are starting to get annoyed. Show something exciting. We've been a joke for too long. Steve, this was made at 8 o'clock before we came live. They may have listened to your point.
It's made at 8 o'clock before we go live. Fine. They just can't. Right. And they just can't.
And that shows how far behind I am, because we're now on 9:20. So I'm going to try my best to get through as many as I can. Simon says, I do think the Prince had the best interest of the club at heart. He would not ruin what's obviously an important window. Thought the sheer lack of communication from the club is not ideal. Though the sheer lack of communication. I've always been I agree, ultimately, that the lack of communication from the club, or the communication from the club, is poor overall. I'm in full agreement with Steve in terms of the takeover. I don't think they can win. Firstly, they're not allowed to comment on it. It's a legal barrier that they can't discuss the details of it. There'll be NDAs and all sorts of stuff that we probably don't even know about or won't ever know about. But also, what would you say? What would you say? And I understand that they could inform the fans that we're under a takeover bid or we're going through the process of a takeover potentially. Then what? Do you update people weekly? Do you? Oh, sorry, Paul. I've only just seen you, mate. I were just about to get into full flow there, mate. So you're good to stop me.
No, you crack on. I just want to say something about that.
Okay, how often then do you? Because if there's a hitch in the negotiations, do you report that? Because that's poor practice, obviously. If we're making progress, do you report on that? Because how then does it give leverage to the other party? You think that I don't think it works, particularly with a takeover. I think things like kit releases and things, you can expect the kit to be released, second week of July. There's no stopping them from doing that. I think there's stuff like that is straightforward stuff that if we got our stuff together, we can get things a lot more streamlined. Where are we going on pre-season tour? Nothing's been announced properly yet. Poor. But things like the takeover, I don't think we can comment on. Go on, Paul.
I was just going to say, it must be a nightmare for Wilder, because all I've seen of him this pre-season, he was on the training video swearing. The swear box was full. I think every other word was a bleep bleep. So it was quite funny, really. But you can imagine he don't want to go into the press, because from the press's point of view, they're after a big story. They're after something that's gonna get a lot of headlines, get a lot of traction. and they'll not want to put him in front of the media simply because that it's live. It's one slip of the tongue. It's
the firecracker, isn't it?
Mate, it's well, the thing is, he'd get annoyed because they'd probably badger him about the same thing over and over, and he'd end up getting a bit flustered, like he can do when he goes, like the great managers can, I guess. But I'm not surprised they're not sticking him in front of the media. I'm not surprised there's hardly anything coming out of the club on that basis because, like we've said, DC's pointed out a number of times. Steve said it a number of times. It's not. You can't say out. And when you're talking about targets and things, you know that he won't say anything about a target until it's futile because until it's signed, sealed, delivered, and the video's been made.
Well, no, he only made the video, mate.
Well, you know what I mean. Signed, sealed, delivered,
and posted after it's signed. Yeah.
I know, but you know what I mean. It's a nightmare anyway for managers because they just have to deflect everything. And you know that other people are seeing these things across the country and might prick the right chairman's ears up, who might think, "Oh, we could have a bit of that if we want to go and stick a few quid under his nose." So it's not a great time for Wilder to go in front of the cameras. I'm sure he will when he's got his war chest and he's got a couple in the bank, a couple of his signings through, and he can go and sit to you and tell you about our ambition and what we want to do and where we want to go. But at this moment in time, it's absolutely futile him going in front of the camera.
I think the most likely thing we hear from Wilder is probably a recorded interview through the club for similar reasons. So, once we've got a couple of bodies through the door, we might get some structured signings from inside, structured interviews from inside the club. What's your plans? Where we're going? What's all that sort of thing. So
that's right,
that makes sense. I think what I have to interject is, I think we're all on a similar page, like we've touched on earlier. But I don't, for a minute, and I know none of you do either, dismiss those that are worried about the future and things. We understand it, and hopefully, by listening to us, you can see our side of it, which is, we get it, we do get it. But our collective thought process, and I don't want to speak for lads because you've heard from them yourselves, and you'll continue to do. But overall, I think we're all in a place where we're just trying to give the club a chance to sort of start moving. Rather than, oh my God, why aren't we doing something? And I've been worst one for it out of four of us. You've seen me live on here saying, what are we doing? But I need to keep having a word with myself and saying, come on, we've got a bit of time. There's reasons why there's been delays in certain aspects of signings and things like that. So let's just try and keep his heads for a little bit. So Hyder says we've got a friendly in 2 days with half a team and 2 terrible goalkeepers. Yeah.
So, I mean, the goalkeepers need improving, but they're not that terrible. Like, Adam Davies has played for. Well, we'll see. Because listen, in front of that defence last season, I think most goalkeepers would be terrible.
Yeah, maybe so.
Hansen, you used the example earlier. Bottom of camp, like there's structural stuff there, but
I know what you mean. We certainly need a goalkeeper. I appreciate you playing devil's advocate, but we do need You're right. They're not terrible goalkeepers, but they're certainly not reliable goalkeepers from anything that they've shown us recently.
So far, absolutely not. But on day one, if we've got Adam Davies or Gerbic in net, but we've got, I don't know, potential loans coming on the way, it all depends. But this is the situation we're in. Are we rumoured with any goalkeepers other than Michael Cooper?
Not overtly, but I'd expect that to ramp up as the takeover gets closer.
And I think just because there's no noise doesn't mean it's not happening. But
I think that's definitely true.
The squad's a little bit in better shape than people are making out.
Yeah, it is. Dad says he thought there'd be more news this week. We've had a fair bit of news today, haven't we, pal? Maybe there'll be something tomorrow. But as I say, I'm not overly panicking. Steve Holmes says, whenever the takeover transpires, will there be time for signings? Nobody knows, and that's the hurtful thing that's ripping not only the fan base, but the major content creators and press apart. Right, wow. I can't say I've had a chance to catch up with many other bits and bats going. I meant to watch Benjamin Bloom, and I haven't had a chance to do it yet. Can we sign players for a fee if we sell anybody while the takeover is ongoing up the Ramble? Don't know, to be honest, Stephen. It's not something I've overly explored. I would assume, yes, we probably can. I think it's very unlikely that we do, because the conversations will be who pays for it, particularly if you're moving closer and closer. does it come off Prince Abdullah's valuation? Yes, you're adding an asset into the group, but that money, is it in the club? It's a difficult one. I think there'll be a little bit of a freeze on transfers over whatever the changeover period's going to be, but that's just a personal opinion. Go on, Steve.
Potentially, there might be a mechanism in place where, let's say, you've got Anel valued at 10 million and Sousa valued at 30 million. Let's just use the numbers. That 40 million on the balance sheet might have to be kept in club. So if you get that cash, it goes straight into the club. Then the club can spend that money, potentially. But it all depends on what the takeover negotiations are doing. But until that takeover is done, really, it's up to Prince Abdullah.
Yeah, it is. It is, that's right.
I imagine the assets, depending on the players being assets and cash being assets, that's how it's going to work.
Heidi says, breaking news, Sheffield United will sign my Nan on a 3-year deal. She's a bit rusty and lacks match fitness, but she'll get more game time than Brewster.
A bit rusty. You just called your Nan a bit rusty, mate. Come on.
Yeah, come on. Thoughts on the club allegedly rejecting 15 million from Fulham? We touched on that, Scott. Yeah, thank you for raising it, pal. And I hope you're well, mate. I think I snap your hand off if you offer me 15 million for Sousa. I don't know what you boys think.
Yeah.
Dave said we don't accept first bids, but I'd be inclined.
I do if it's 15.
No, don't. First rule of negotiation. Come on.
Yeah, I know, but
if we get to 20, pass me the keys.
I know we're a football club, and I know we don't like him, but we are a business, so don't lose.
All right, Prince Abdullah.
If they offer us 20 million, we get the keys. Get the keys.
FX says rejecting a bid maybe, but who's put the figure on it? Neither club would release that information. No. It's a well-known Brazilian journalist who reported their deal for Muniz. I think, looking at the sources, there might be legs in Fulham talking to United about Sousa. I struggle to believe some of the figures that are being chucked about. However, I don't know. I don't want to be too stereotypical with this, but you do find, or I certainly believe, that some players, particularly foreign players, hold their value. And I don't know why that is particularly. Maybe it's an unknown quantity. I know his stats actually look pretty good, even though he massively fails the eye test, old Vinny. But, you know, it's one of them. If they're going to give us that sort of money, then I think we're going to be laughing. Bid rejected is fine, but the amount of the bid is made up, says FX out. Yeah, maybe so. Evening, Jimbo. New shirt is a banger, says Daniel. Okay. Wow. All about opinions, pal. All about opinions. Luke says, hi, Jim. Good day overall on the Blades front. Very nice of you to say so, Luke. Need to get Burrows over the line now, though. Otherwise, we'll miss out. Again, it's one of those that I think we're going to have to be patient on, pal. And we may lose him. I hope we don't. Nigel says, not sure it's time to panic. Just a bit quiet at the minute with the takeover, which is understandable. I think it will be done next week or even tomorrow, but that's my personal opinion. I think that's...
This sort of, no offense to you, Nigel, but everybody's doing it. I think Jamie did it earlier, one of the imminent signings, where people are like, oh, we don't know when it's going to be, but I'm going to make this date up. And then you get your heart set on that date. And then when it doesn't happen, you get raging.
It's like a subconscious nudge then, isn't it? To, well, if it didn't happen today when I thought it would happen.
You got to buy a ticket if you're going to win the lottery. He's just having a little guess.
Oh no!
It's probably what he hopes. It's not the end of the world. He's not like,
but it's
not credible info.
Very things.
You know,
Nigel and his paper round. Window cleaning round. Is that what it is?
Window cleaning, yeah.
Yeah, that's not you, Nigel Davis, by the way. Walter Hope Valley Railway enthusiast. Hope Valley, is that the one down near me, isn't it? Near me, that light what? Not light clear. I don't know. Something like railway or something. I don't know. Well, you're enthusiastic about it, Walter. I'm clearly not. Any news about the takeover? Time's getting on. By the way, I'll be in York tap for the York game before heading to the Stone Roses bar. Oh, Stone Roses bar sounds half decent.
What time? So,
me and Steve were thinking about going for a pre-match when we thought kick-off was 3 o'clock. Can still do that, but obviously you're talking about 11, half 11 now, aren't you? Rather than
breakfast pints.
Yeah, breakfast pint. Yeah, it'd be 11 o'clock probably at York Tap, I would have said. Devon Blade says, what's the point of signing players now? If the takeover treats us good and we get better players in, the first lot would be pointless. Very good point from Devon Blade. Love that, because if we are looking at a higher caliber of player post-takeover, then like we've already touched on with McCallum, he might be out on his ear a little bit if Harrison Burrows comes in. So no point stocking up on too many Shackletons and McCallums, just in case. Hardy Marsden, absolutely shocking. That was when we first came in from Mr. V. Shows how far behind I am.
I was the first one on the goal, mate.
Say again.
I was the first one on the goal.
You were, actually. You were first to join me, making your dog some dinner. If I'm honest, the club is at a standstill with getting transfers in, ownership model getting out in place. Are any of you going to the Chesterfield match, says Harry? I'm not down to go to Chelsea at the minute.
Hope so.
Anybody?
Hope so. Yeah.
Dave's hoping to go.
No.
Paolo, I don't think you're going to get to many pre-seasons, are you?
No. I was. One was on the cards, but I think it might be in trouble now.
Mrs. Mountain not feeling it.
On holidays.
Fair enough. All right. Fair news then.
Yeah.
Give us some good news, Jimmy. I've got Michael Cooper ready to go as our new number one. I would love it, mate. I would love it. Hope you've sort of taken something positive from our chat tonight so far. Evening, lads, says Cole. Brown going to Sunderland. A lot of our targets being linked elsewhere. You can tell players are getting impatient and wanting security, which is totally understandable. Really hurting us badly. Agreed, Cole. Does Alan Brown get in our starting 11? I'm not convinced he does. I think he could squeeze in as the third midfielder. But who's dropping? And look, Andre Brooks is there as well. We're not massive Vinny Souza fans, but it's going to be Vinny Souza, Gus Hamer, and Ollie Arblaster in the middle for us next season, if nothing changes. Does Alan Brown squeeze his way into that three? I'm not convinced he does. Personally, I don't see where. People having a pop at Chirac. We're just going to be jumping past that. Walter, Hope Valley Railway enthusiast, is going to Chesney. That's good to know. FX says Brown's not good enough, Cole. No miss there. I think he's a good player, a good championship player, solid player. A little bit like I was talking about in the Martin Craney mould, will do us a job. But Paul's right. We're looking for players that are going to make the step up. And Brown will be 31 if we get promoted at the end of this season, I think. Or pushing 31. And he's never played in Premier League as far as I'm aware. So Pixie says, does us a real solid here. Smash that like button, fellas and lasses. Thank you very much. I hit the first like tonight. You're welcome. That's what I love to see. Thank you, mate. Following on from the last comment from me, hurting us, and the quality of player will get to be lower as there are less on the market. The next weeks are crucial with the takeover and freebies. Time to get sorted up the blades. But I think just to the last point that we were talking on, Cole, we may be in a different market post takeover. So hopefully that's the case. That's the best case scenario, isn't it? There is a risk to everything that we're doing here, but I think we're a little bit calmer about it because we're confident of how things are progressing. Signing freebies whilst waiting for the takeover to go through does not add up to me. I think that's why we haven't seen a lot of quantity, 8, because we could have undoubtedly snapped up 4 or 5 now, freebies, and padded the squad out a little bit, or re-signed players like Ben Osborne. But do you want to? Do you want to just get the numbers in? I'm not sure we do.
That's it, Jimmy. It's like wanting to do something just because otherwise nothing happens, and like we shouldn't be signing players just for the sake of doing something. We need them to compete for spots, and I think that's the point that's being missed.
The thing that made me nervous, though, Steve, was the fact that we have said there's been 12 out of the door and 2 in. That is a lot of players to get in. We now know that we need to bring players in, which puts us in a bit of a vulnerable position to other clubs as well, really, knowing that we need players. So I'm not overly comfortable with it, but I understand it.
Comfortable, but I can see the club working behind the scenes. I can see that we've got 5 to 6 loans we can use as a short-term option, but also we might have a massive payday on the way. And what we don't want to do,
to be honest,
and even if we did,
you look at it and you think we've got a midfield 3 of Souza, Hamer, and Arblaster. We've got potentially, and this is potentially if everything goes to plan, Callum O'Hare coming in to play in front of them. Imagine if we use one of our loans. Just imagine on a David Brooks. That 5 there just looks incredible in the Championship. Do you know what I mean? I just think, and then the picture changes completely, doesn't it? And that, you know, you've got an L behind him and Bogle next to him. We get a decent keeper in on loan, a decent striker on loan, and we're not as far behind as we thought. So, like we've been saying, I think the squad isn't quite in as bad a shape as we first thought. I thought the club was going to give some type of statement out this week regarding the situation that's worrying the fans. We've talked about why the club aren't talking. On that note, I was told that an update was going to be given of some sort, and it hasn't come. Although I do understand why it hasn't come, like we've touched on. Ben says, literally demoralising looking at Darren Smith tweeting a couple more weeks if it happens. Yeah, I know, Ben. I know. I think Darren's rightly being cautious because he can't commit, and anything can happen, can't it? I'm confident that it'll go through from everything I'm hearing, but I'm no expert, and I'm certainly not involved in any negotiations. So I'm going on what people are telling me.
Darren. Well, that's it. That's it. But then people, I mean, I don't know.
I don't know. You know, I don't know how long it's going to take.
Yeah, I can see why Danny Hall and Nixon might put a date on it to try and get some clicks there. But I don't know what Darren... I often think that Darren gets limited information, then fills the gaps himself, and then sort of fills the gaps on Twitter, and people take that from what they will. I don't know if that's true. I've never met Darren. I don't even look at his stuff because I'm not on X, but it's just a dangerous game doing dates.
Darren's very well informed, and I don't want to speak for him because he obviously can defend himself. He don't need me to talk for him. I've got a great relationship with Darren, as you know, and it's my opinion that the reason he does it is because of like your Alan Nixons of the world. I think Danny Hall's been very good last few weeks, to be fair to him, in terms of some news he's broken, and he's been first to a lot of things. So I'm not going to criticise Danny, but Nixon particularly, and you get other journalists stirring it up about Sheffield United, and I understand it. And I think Darren tries to debunk some of the myths that he sees from these journalists, and he is peppered with questions. And you're right, he could just say, don't talk to me about it. And a couple of times he's had to say, I'm going to close my account because it's getting too much for me, this. And then he pops back up because people are badgering him. He shouldn't have to, really. I think probably he might want to think about going private if you know, people keep giving him abuse and stuff like that. But yeah, I think he's well informed. He knows his stuff.
He bears a lot of... Sorry to interrupt you, Jim. I think Darren bears... I think he bears a lot of the frustration of fans, really. And I think most of his stuff, from my point of view, what I read, what I get told, he's doing it in best intention a lot of the time. And I think people get frustrated and then start to, you know, take it too far. And
because it's widely known he's close to the Prince, people see it as a vehicle to communicate with the Prince, whether that's positively or negatively as well. So they're trying vehemently to say, he needs to get out of our club. He needs to do this. He needs to, and it's Darren that takes brunt of it. And yes, he's put himself in that position, but he certainly don't deserve some of the stick he gets. So, we were supposed to get news this week. Yes, we were, pal. We were, and it's just not been forthcoming, has it? But as I say, I understand it. I'm just going to try and move forward in some of these comments a little bit. Mark, one of our platinum ramblers, top man, says, annoying thing for me about the takeover is that we're constantly being told more to come next week than standard. We've heard no, but we haven't heard that officially from the club, have we, Mark?
This is it. We've got everything with a pinch of salt unless it's from the club.
Exactly right. Exactly right. Bill says, evening, Jimmy. Watching from Greece currently. Oh, very nice. Things will get moving soon and we'll be ready. Up the Blades, up the Ramble. Like and subscribe. Thank you, pal. We love that positivity from you. Where's the statement that was promised by the club? Who from the club promised it? Tell me if I'm wrong, because I might be. I don't remember the club saying at any stage that they were gonna post a statement about it. I was told personally that the club was going to release a statement about it, and I assume Darren was told the same. It's not been forthcoming for whatever reason. What happens if the takeover fails again, says Scott, and it's smoke and mirrors? We've wasted weeks already. Well, if the takeover fails, it won't have been smoke and mirrors. It'll be smoke and mirrors is when you're making out something's happening and it's not. Well, yeah.
It's just been in the same position as we were before.
Yeah.
We've
got a plan. We've got a plan for no takeover. We've got a plan for no takeover, and it includes more signings.
The takeover is a bonus.
Hard. Yeah, you're right, Steve. That is ultimately the way to strip it all back and try and look at it. But when you're given drops of information that gets you excited about a potential new future, it's very difficult to just switch that off. I understand it, mate, and that's the very logical way to look at it. But it's hard to do when your emotions are involved with your club.
It's life, mate. It's life. If you are interviewing for a new job and they say, we're going to pay you 3 times your salary you're on now, you get all this work-life benefit, and then for some reason something changes, that's life. It's not logical. It's just life. This is a big bonus. People in the fan base at the minute, it's like they're entitled to this takeover, and I just don't get it. If the takeover,
excited about it, mate. I know you're right, and it becomes that sort of when's it going to happen? When's it going to happen? Rather than if it's going to happen.
It's because people care, mate. It's because people. That's why they're interested, and that's why they're looking for information and want to know what's going on. I mean, it's in this situation we have to be very reactive to what's happening, on a day-to-day, because being proactive is impossible, because we're to an extent, because we don't know what we're dealing with until things are signed and sealed. We don't know what sort of deals we can offer. We don't know who we want to be as our main targets. We don't know what sort of budget we're going to have until it's done and dusted, and I just feel like we just need to, again, just chill a little bit. We've got just over 4 weeks, 4 weeks tomorrow until we get to Deepdale. That's quite a long time in football. And for me, I was going to pose a question to the lads, and obviously to the Ramblers as well, just to see what they were thinking. But by the end of July, so we're sat here on the 11th today, by the end of July, how many net players do you think we'll have? And when I say net players, that means if we lose 2, you need to add 2 in order to see. So I think we're looking at, because people keep saying to me 15 players. We need 15 players. I don't believe that's not true. I believe it's nearer 7 or 8 players. That's where I sit with it. And I think we'll probably have at least 5 of those by the end of this month. And I think there may be a couple in the last week, maybe loans, because they never give up the good loans until the last week before the season starts, because they want them with their clubs touring and doing whatever it is and having a good look at them before they make any decisions on them. So I think there'll be 5 more with a view to maybe up to like 8 or 9 possibly, in my brain.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think we need to run with a squad of about 22, 23. I think you get 9 subs now in this league. It's ridiculous amount of subs that you get. So that's obviously a match day squad of 20, and an extra few just in case of injury, really. And then we've got some loan players that'll complement us if we're struggling with that. I think 22, 23 is plenty to run with as a squad. I know you can get up to 25 in Prem, but 22, 23 is fine for me. And I don't know how many we've got currently on the books, but it's got to be 15, 16 officially on the books that will be in and around the first team currently. Whether you think Anel's going to be able, like Paul says, net. So if Anel goes and we replace him, how many do you think we need to add to the current number to have a decent sized squad? No, I think you're right. I think it'd be 7 or 8 tops. Lads, Dave?
I'm doing some maths. Keeper.
All right, I'll come back to you. Steve?
I would say goalkeeper, a couple of defenders, a maverick midfielder, and a couple of strikers, and then maybe 5 loans on top of that. So what's that? 12.
11?
Nah, 7. I've got 7.
Well, I've got 7 plus loans.
7 net.
Yeah. So but you could get your players in with the loans, though, couldn't you, Steve?
I could for like.
You'd assume loans would be first teamers.
Yeah, I'd like a few youngsters in there to develop for the future, and if they don't work out, sell them on for a profit. But yes.
Yeah, understood. Okay, as part of that squad, this is next question. Dave, I'm coming to you first. Do you reckon McBurnie will sign a new contract? He's officially left the club, by the way. He's not a Sheffield United player. But do you think, because we know that negotiations are continuing, or certainly that was the party line, do you think he'll sign a deal with Sheffield United?
Yeah, I think he probably will. I think he'll, Well, obviously, there's got to be some sort of keenness on both sides if he is training.
I agree.
So, yeah, I think he will.
Steve?
One of the best players I've seen play football.
Oh, God. Paul. No, Steve, go on, mate. I'm only
kidding. Like the Johansson thing, like the Kiefer Moore thing, it has to be on the club's terms. And the fact that he hasn't been given a deal that he has agreed to yet because he has left the club, and obviously there's been some sort of non-agreement there, would show me that the club are thinking about other options. So, yes, but it has to be on the club's terms. It has to be a short-term deal as well for me.
So you think he will sign, but on the club's terms? It's not would you sign him, it's do you think he will?
I don't know where he'd go.
Okay, Paul.
How old is he?
28.
Well, 2 + 1 then.
Yeah, I'd say same. Paul.
Again, I wouldn't underestimate what he did for us last year. Not last year, year before.
No, yeah, come on.
Yeah, sorry, not last year.
It's all right.
But I wouldn't underestimate it. I'd offer him a deal. Again, I don't know if he's too proud to take a reduced deal. I'm not sure. That's something he'd have to throw with in his own brain. I think he'd be useful for us on the right deal for the club, and I don't think he should be able to hold us to ransom because I don't think he's quite warranted that. So yeah, I mean, I don't think he will personally. I think he'll probably get an offer from somebody else as we draw towards the end of the window, and that you never know what the new regime want. They might want something that again better potentially. So I don't think he will.
I think it'll say quite a lot if he plays on the weekend.
He won't play. He's not a Sheffield United player, mate.
Trialist.
He can play. It's not a league game, is it? He can.
But he's not going to play, is he? He's not. You won't play him if he's not officially part of your squad, and you don't believe he's going to be part of your squad. That's
why I'm saying, though, it could be quite telling if he plays or not.
Well, it'd be very. Yeah, I agree with that. It'd be very telling if he plays. I don't think he'll play, but I think I'm undecided on this because I think it depends on how United see losing a target like Kiefer Moore, for example. So if you planned on Kiefer Moore coming in, then he's obviously not anymore. Have we got a plan B immediately? Signing Ollie McBurnie for no fee on a lower wage, I think it's a bit of a no-brainer. Apologies to my dad if he's watching, but I think you've got to do it. And there's no noose around your neck in terms of a huge transfer fee, which I think has dragged him down throughout his time with Sheffield. People have used it as a stick to beat him with. He has been on big money. And like Paul says, I don't think he's warranted huge money. His performances haven't really been up to that sort of standard. Not that he's been bad, but he's not been great. I think it's a no-brainer, personally, to bring him in. And if we can get a deal done, then we both sides might have to bend a little bit. But again, I don't want the club compromising their principles. I am massively behind on comments, so I'm going to apologise. I'm going to have to skip through some. Sonny says loads of targets are being let go, but I hope the club and new ownership have a backup plan to attract new targets when we get the green light for the takeover. However, I was frustrated last season because we didn't have the quality or the numbers to get the team into with a fighting chance. I thought we might have learned our lesson, but it seems we haven't. It's always soon, says Ben. Illy says, I'd rather have McBurnie than Kiefer Moore any day of the week. Interesting. We had that conversation in our group earlier. You're going to lose players, though. We knew Archer was going back, so we aren't stuck with the wage bill. A rebuild and a takeover won't be rushed. It never works that way at all. Well said, Nige. Well said, mate. Mate is a steward at Norwich and really rates McCallum, says Ben. It's good to hear. Evening's on it. We're waiting for a takeover, but for me, we need players ASAP or we're going to miss out on the good players and the good prospects. I'm going to end up panic buying and overpaying for players. That's the danger, isn't it? That's the danger. Harry says Roma might be looking at Hamer. I really hope he doesn't go. Hamer, we believe, has got a release clause, so it won't be up to us whether he goes or not. But they'd have to pay big money to get him. I know it's no comparison with the money they've spent, but Arsenal fans were crying out for Arteta to be sacked. He pleaded with them to trust in the process, and they would want him gone. They wouldn't want him gone now. Chill and trust the club. No, they know what they're doing, says David. Well said. Well said. Play 4 weeks to start. there's only 4 weeks to the start of the season. How are any new signings going to bed in? It's worrying up the Blades. Simon says, I believe Roma have signed another midfielder and are strong there anyway, but could be wrong. I heard the same. Up the Blades, up the Ramble. Like and subscribe. It's getting to squeaky bum time, says Action Location. Get a move on, CEO of Google. Let's be honest, Ender, Baldock, Fleck, and so on wasn't wow signings, but look how they turned out for us. Again, another very good point. Good point, Nigel, says Ian. Jeff, good evening, mate. I agree with Dave. 2 weeks, then worry if nothing happens. I think the away kit is horrendous. Say what you think, pal. Say what you think. Get Anel and Sousa out and use that money for signings. The potential new owners aren't guaranteed, so they can't be allowed on influence or to influence. I'm not precious on Sousa, but I'm warming to the thought of keeping Anel. I don't know what you lads are thinking. Obviously, he's a big ticket. He's a huge asset for the club and would inject a lot of money into the club. But what's your thoughts on, Paul, I'll come to you first, mate, on keeping Anel, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, it's very, very difficult to be in a situation as the star defender in a team that is conceding the way that we played and went about it. I'm not willing to throw him under the bus. I still think there's obviously a player in there, and I don't think it was the backs to the wall style really suited him that much. I'll agree with that. In the Championship, he'll be arguably top 3, 4, 5 defenders in the division, in my opinion. Again.
Yeah.
So, yes, obviously, if the right deal doesn't come and he wants to stay, if the new owners come in and say, look, Anel, these are the plans, and they're getting re-infused about it, and we get rid of some of the nonsense with his dad and some of the other stuff, then obviously, gosh, we've got to sell him. No, he's a great player, and there's people willing to pay, or maybe willing to pay money for him at that level because they see that he can be that good. If he can get his head right and we can impress him enough with our ambition to keep him, why not?
Absolutely right. Well said, mate. Sorry, lads, we're going to come to you all for your opinion, but we're just towing for time. I needed to get this in as well. Action Location. Wilder will be gone when the new owners come in. I don't think he will. Just a caretaker, in my humble opinion. Up the Blades, up the Ramble. Like and subscribe. Thank you very much, pal. Have we all seen the link between the Neon away kit and the Neon AI server? No. And I ain't got time to speculate on it, pal. I apologise. This takeover bot going to happen. How can we turn 15 million down for Sousa? What we could do with 15 million now, and we lost out on a Brian. Okay. Chris, you have been typing too fast for your brain, but I get what you're saying. Turning down 15 million for Sousa is crazy, but Dave's all for it. And Dave is a businessman himself, so I am not going to. Steve, what would your opinion be? The same? Wait and see what the negotiation is going to be as a businessman yourself.
100%.
So they've offered 15 million, which we all think is an unbelievable offer, but because it's an opening offer, you two believe that we should sit tight and talk a little bit.
I'd at least give it a day, mate. I'd at least think about it. Maybe use the takeover to my advantage and be like, oh, do you know what? Gonna have to check that with the new owners, because do you know what I mean? I'd make them wait a little bit and then think, well, why don't we go up to 20? Or put add-ons in, or ask them for something else.
Rifat says, blooming love Abdullah. We had more success under him than the last 10 owners combined. Like our 2 signings so far, good age. As you say, they both want to be here and sound hungry to play, says Simon. Also didn't sell our youth players below market value, says Rifat, referring to Prince Abdullah. Also kept ticket prices very low, very low. You look across the city, I think they're paying almost double what we're paying at times. There are a lot of pros that people sort of just cast past when the argument suits. Evening, Bry. One of our platinum ramblers. Do you think 15 million is cheap for a Brazilian international? Up the Ramble. Absolutely right. Matilda shakes. The sound of the Ramble joining us tonight. No panic here. I think we keep Anel and Sousa. Sousa will be good in the Championship. Just hope his attitude is right. Would love Joe Worrell and Michael Cooper. Be interested to see who we get up top. I think Forest are playing silly beggars a little bit about Joe Worrell, if I'm honest, but Expect note less from them. But thank you for joining us, pal. Hope you're well. Everybody check out Matilda Shakes, top local band, support local bands. 30 million lira, Ben's saying. I think we need to mention Asula, to be honest. He needs to start repaying the club and the fans with goals. He's had plenty of chances and minutes now, so there should be no excuse if we've been putting faith in him. Strong, but fair, I think, to be honest. He's a youth team sensation. We can't forget that the youth team that our youth lads play in is a rung below the elite division. And because we're not Cat 1, we can't go out. Even though we keep seeing continued success for the youngsters, the level isn't the same as what the elite players are playing in. So it's all right us saying we've got some great prospects, which we clearly have. You look at players like Ollie Arblaster and all the plethora of examples that have come from our youth side, and in the right circumstances, they can really blossom. But Asula might be firing him in for under 21s. He's never really done. He always looks a real danger, very raw, but has a lot of the tools. Just no composure in front of goal at the moment. And is that going to come? Dave, what's your thoughts on Will Asula going into next season?
Yeah, I think it'll come. Whether he's better off going out on loan, I think that comes down to who we get in. But you could be looking after 10 games and he's got 4 or 5 goals under his belt, and it's not inconceivable.
I think this is a massive season for Asula. I think this is make or break for him. I think we dropped down a division. I felt for him in the Premier League. It's a different planet to the Championship. And yes, we've seen him toil in the Premier League, but he's still a young lad. I think this season will tell us everything we want to know about Will Asula, because I believe that if he doesn't have the season that his potential shows or what we think he could do, then it might be curtains and he might be down the road somewhere the year after. Because I think at this age and what he's shown so far, and when we do play against lower level opposition, he has been very, very, very good. So I believe that this is going to be a big year for him, and I'm really hopeful for him because I think he's a threat and he's definitely an athlete. So I really want him to succeed.
Well said. Well said. I'm going to have to start wrapping this up soon. We've been going a long time. It's past 10 o'clock and I'm still on 9 o'clock comments here. The club is a shambles, but Archer, the club is a shambles, but Archer was a good decision. 2 things can be true, but let's not mix topics. Mate, we're well beyond mixing topics, so I apologise. Matilda Shakes again says, O'Hare, Hamer and Arblaster could be an absolute dream midfield in the Championship. Completely agree. 30 million for Sousa is a joke, but I would love it. It's not a joke. He's an unbelievable player, and anybody listening should just stick by that. Looking how things are going, it looks like we'll be a free loan team and get at least January before Takeover. if it'll be done at all by then. Come on, Paul. Hopefully we've turned you around. Well, we're a greedy club, according to a certain French club. That was nonce, wasn't it? That was nonce saying that we're asking too much for Benny Traore, who I think will probably be with the club next season. Apologies, I'm shifting down now. I'm going to have to scramble through these comments. Scramble for the Ramble. Simon says the club is an absolute shambles at the moment. No other way to describe it. And it comes from the top. Can't recall point deductions and transfer embargoes on any other previous owner. To be fair, that is a valid point. That is a valid point in terms of the punishments that we've faced. So I get why people are sort of throwing that at us. You have to also, if you're considering the punishments that we've been under, the success that we've been under, you can't bypass being in like the bottom half of League One to the Premier League and spending the last 3 of the last 5 seasons in the Premier League. It's been an unbelievable rise, and that, yes, it's a fair point to mention that. Look, we've hit stumbles along the road with points deductions and embargoes and stuff like that is embarrassing for the club. There's no getting around it. But in terms of the success over the trajectory of his ownership, I can't see how it's anything but a success. Personally,
I think as well, Jimmy, this might be very controversial, but What are you doing your eyes for, Paul Mountain?
No, nothing. It's not nothing, Steve. Sorry, it's just when you start with that, mate. We can almost
What am I going to say? Yeah, no.
What's coming next? What are we saying?
This might be controversial, but I would take the 2-point deduction every time, given that we got to keep her now, we got to get all these players in, and we did cheat.
Right. Time out for Steve Marsden. Do you remember Dean and Fjortoff sales? Every other owner would have sold Egan, Jock, etc. before Wilder got a chance to build that team. He's back. I'm only kidding. Sarah agrees. We remember the Dean and Fjortoff sales. Certainly we do. For every example, there's a counter in there. We're borrowing against future earnings and we're paying 10k per day in interest. That may be true. I've not crunched the numbers, mate. I've not crunched the numbers, but if we go under different ownership, then a lot of that may change and alter anyway. Not sure Archer will be in a Premier League side next season. I think Bournemouth are monitoring him, it was saying in one of the papers today. So why not withdraw the contract offer given to McBurnie, go back to Villa and offer them the fee they've just given us and reset. It don't work like that, pal. I can't get into that now. I haven't got the time, but we will come back to that because I'd love to see Archer back reunited, to be honest. But that's just me personally. We allowed 15 contracts to expire at the same time. That's nothing other than shambolic. Shows no planning or foresight. Or that we plan to let them go at the end of the current contract. Other than announcing plans to get planning permission, how has the infrastructure changed? Look at the state of the women's team. Still don't have a manager and best players are leaving. I don't know if there's been a true focus on the women's team, to be honest. I can't say I have enough knowledge about that side of the organisation as a whole, if you like. But I will say that the new training ground at Door is certainly part of it. We're upgrading the academy. The ground's had improvements and an uplift. There's been everything's come back under the club's ownership rather than scattered around into owners' personal accounts and dealings. It's been night and day from what we had previously. We're being sold as one entity rather than, different pieces of a puzzle. We were promoted in spite of the Prince, not because of him. People are deluded if they think he's done a good job in the last 5 years. Borrowing money against the club isn't investing. It was very lucky with Wilder. Okay, and that's some people's opinion, and we are here to voice all sides of the opinion. Scott says Devo or garbage starting in nets on Saturday. Then, yeah, looks like it. That's right. Chirac's causing chaos in the chat again. No change there. Gaz says, anyone know how many season tickets have been sold? Does anybody know that off the top of their head? Anybody got an idea? I'm not sure, personally.
A lot.
A lot. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, mate.
I went on to have a look at availability, and there isn't loads. And in the corner between the cop. Yeah. That's as good as it gets, nearly. So a lot.
Very good. Paul Burberry, our blade in Spain. Hey up, Jimmy. Loving Paul's top. Totally agree. Keep the faith. Up the blades. Up the ramble. Like and subscribe from a blade in Spain. P.S. I'll be surrounded by 200 Spanish supporters Sunday in my local. Oh, my word. I'd get your powder dry if I were you. Scott says, just to ask Steve, you say you can see the club doing things behind the scenes. What are you seeing that we're not? All we're seeing is the same rumours. Can we see like or linked players with what else? That's not a pot, by the way. Just genuinely interested if you're seeing more than what others may be. What are you seeing, Steve, that others aren't, mate?
Well, Scott, if you join Jimmy's Patreon in the Ramble, you might receive bits of information that other people don't get. So subscribe to Platinum and you might be able to see the things I do as well, Scott.
He's not even on commission. It's unreal.
I'm really not as well. I just like it. It chilled me right out, mate.
Thanks, mate. Thank you.
Right.
Appreciate you. Well, not been to the start of the season. Not long to the start of the season, says Paul. And not much in the way of players coming in, but at least Wilder can go from his normal comment list. The players are not fit enough. Wow. As for Door, still awaiting planning permission, says Matty. How many years on Anel's contract? I think there's at least another 2. probably +1, knowing how we now structure deals, but at least 2. Or are we just going to run down his contract and not reinvest the money? I don't know which I prefer. I think if we're going to go for it this season, you've got to keep him. Well, I'm not saying we have to keep him, but if the plan is to keep him, I think we go for it this season. I'd like to see that anyway, personally. It's robbed me a little bit selling Egan, or releasing Egan. But
if you're going to sell him, though, if you're going to sell him, you need a buyer. So if nobody's fronting up with an offer for him, it's not our fault.
Absolutely. And you see, we're not. I genuinely think, and apart to what the question we're asked to Steve, really, you see how we're structuring deals, and if it's true that we've knocked back an initial £15 million offer for Sousa, we paid €14 million for him, so we'd have made a profit on that deal already, and we've said no. I think we're doing that sort of side of the business really well. So if we sell a Nell, it'll be for good money, really good money, which is what we all want, isn't it? Right, we're just wrapping up. Yes, Scott's rightly saying he is part of the Patreon, Steve, and he's platinum. Yeah, he is. So it's just so busy in there, you forget, don't you? You forget.
Yeah, that's all right. So, but the actual answer to Scott, it's just cancelling out the noise, knowing who to listen to, and just watching what the club actually does, not what random commentators say. I'll message Scott. I'll message you privately on the chat, mate.
Okay. I'll leave you to have a little love in with your friend. But anyway, listen, any final thoughts, lads, before I wrap us up? Because thank you for your time this evening. We've gone for an hour and 41 minutes. Ooh. And I need to get to bed. So any final thoughts? Stevie, I'll start with you, mate.
I think that whether we like it or not, we can't control the timescales of everything. No matter how much information anyone gets, you're always going to want more.
That's true.
And the club is doing some really good things. We've had a couple of announcements today. We've got more players in than we did yesterday. We are making progress. And as always, we should focus on the direction and not the speed.
So is it time to panic, Steve?
Never.
Good lad. Davey boy, what's your final thoughts, pal?
Very similar. I mean, I don't even think we need to look at the first game. We need to look at the end of the window, and there's a long way to go before we get to that point. Above all else, I cannot wait to get back in that ground, around my mates, the noise, and just getting back into it. It's been too long, even though it's not me. It feels like it's been that long. So
yeah, that's right. No time to panic for you then. Not the time. Good lad. Mr. Mountain, take us home, pal.
End of July. I'll be panicking if nothing's happened, but it's a long way to that. Nearly 3 weeks to that. So I'm nowhere near the button just yet, I'll be honest. And it's not it's how you finish, guys. It's not where you are at half time. It's like watching England. It's what's happened at the end. Have we got through? Have we managed it? And yeah, like you say, with a week to go, we'll assess in a different way, I'd imagine. And hopefully, like you say, for the fans, hopefully we do get this done and dusted, and it is over the line, and we can get a couple in, and we can all start smiling again and feeling a bit less like we're like it's all imploding. But trust me, it's fine. Even if we went to war with what we've got, I'm still confident we'd hold our own in this division.
Love that. And I just have to say as well, a big thank you to Ben Colbeck, who after Steve's sales pitch has just signed up to be a Rambler on Patreon. Thank you, yes, Ben. Thank you, Steve. Just the last few comments on here from everybody is, I want some of what Steve's drinking.
Pepsi Rocks.
Cheers, guys. We know that boots and I'm hoping you've missed the S out of shoes there, pal. Alan Nixon saying United want 30 million for Sousa.
No.
Chirac saying it's crazy. That's the only comment of yours I can read tonight, pal. Just have the faith, says Nige. Have the faith and get behind the club, up the Blades, up the Ramble. Good stream, lads. But are we panicking or not? No, mate. No, we're not. We're not panicking yet.
There's been some really good questions today as well. There's been some really good ones as well.
Thank you, guys. Very much appreciated. Okay, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you for your time. But for now, come on, you red and white wizards.
On the blade!